So Bitcoin is all interesting and good. We heard a lot of good stuff about it. But until the time that Bitcoin takes over the world, we're all still bound to using real money, and that's where TransferWise comes to help. The story of TransferWise really goes back to me being born in the Soviet Union, and as I was growing up in the modern day Estonia, I became very excited in computers. So I got a job as a software developer early on during high school. A bit later, I met two guys by the name Niklas and Janos. They had just sold Kazaa and were starting some new exciting things. So I became the first employee of Skype. About 5 years ago, while I was working for Skype, I was still living in Estonia and I moved to London. But I stayed on the payroll for Skype in Estonia. And what this meant is that every month I was getting my salary paid in euros in Estonia, but all of my expenditure was happening in London in pounds. So every month I went to the bank and I saw that it's not really working out the way it should be. So every month I made a transfer. Let's say I transferred 1,000 euros from my account in Estonia to London. And I was expecting to receive, let's say, 750 pounds. But I went to the bank and I saw I got 700, I got 690, I got 710, much less. And it usually took also quite a long time to get there. I met Kristo, another fine Estonian guy. He was living in London, working for Deloitte. He was getting paid in London, but he had some expenditures in Estonia. So he had to pay a mortgage back in Estonia every month. Every month he went to the bank, and similar to me, he realized he's not getting his money's worth over in Estonia. So the two of us started talking about it, and we realized that we're facing the same problem, albeit in different directions. So next month, what we did is I transferred money from my account in Estonia to his account in Estonia, and he transferred money from his account in London to my account in London. And we used mid-market exchange rate for it. The mid-market exchange rate, which you can read about in the Financial Times and on Reuters, but strangely, it doesn't exist in any bank. If you have some hours to spare, give your bank a call and ask them to explain the mid-market exchange rate to you. Guaranteed it's going to be fun. And we did it the way I described, and boom, it worked really well. So within a very short time, we saved thousands of pounds in bank fees. That's a decent amount of money. So we spoke about this to a couple of our friends who were also moving money between London and Estonia. And they all liked the idea. So we created this Skype chat room where we would say that, hey, I need to send 2,000 euros to Estonia. And someone else said, hey, I need 1,000 pounds in London. And so if this request matched, we could make the transfer. So we had kind of a virtual trading floor of kinds. And that's really where, after we did that, we were thinking that, hey, there's so many other people who have the same problem, and there's really no good solution. Based on what the economist says, there are 200 million people who are either living or working abroad. So it's a huge amount of people who have a need for this. So me and Kristo co-founded TransferWise. We set out to provide a very simple financial service and do it in the way it should be done in the 21st century. So putting into it the experience we have from Skype and from other places, and see what we can come up with. And also the idea was fairly easy to explain. So we spoke about this to Max Levchin and Peter Thiel, who were founders of PayPal. They immediately got it, fell in love with it, and joined the team as investors. That was about 2 years ago. So we've been now live for 2 years. We've transferred hundreds of millions of our customers' money, and we've helped them save more than 10 million in bank fees. As we launched the service, we didn't really give any promises about how quickly things will happen or if the transfer will be fulfilled altogether. By now things have changed, but in the beginning we didn't really know how the peer-to-peer system will work. But what we started doing, we started listening very closely to what our customers are telling us. So what they are phoning us about, what they're emailing, or what they tell using other platforms. And there were three things which really stood out. One was speed. People love to get their money quickly. Second one is low cost, not surprising. And the last one is we got lots of hate mail about other financial services, which was kind of surprising. We didn't ask for it. So talking about speed. if you go to your bank, you're not expecting speed. If your money gets there in 3 to 5 days, it's okay, and that still happens quite a bit. Whereas when using TransferWise, we realize that if we get your money over in a day, our customers were raving about it. So typically we try to do it in a day or two. And recently we demonstrated how we can get your money over within 5 minutes. So during the 5-minute live demonstration, we got money from a debit card in the UK over to a bank account in Europe. So that's kind of the direction we're going to. Second thing is cost. If you go to a bank, you'll pay 10 to 20 pounds as transaction fee here in London, and then there's about 3% hidden load on the exchange rate. They will never really tell you about that one. So you end up paying about 50 pounds for transferring 1,000 pounds. You pay 5 pounds on TransferWise, that's 85% cheaper. But I think more important is that we're looking at pricing from a diametrically opposite point of view. I reckon that a bank thinks about pricing the following way. How much can we charge for it in various ways and get away with this? Then there are the next people down the food chain, FX brokers and such, who are thinking similarly with an addition, how much do we charge, but we have to charge less than a bank. And then there come TransferWise, and we're thinking about it, how little can we charge while enough to build a global sustainable business. And now we get to the last piece of feedback, which was feedback about typical bank services. And a lot of this is coming in, and people are feeling enlightened when they see TransferWise. Let me read to you one we got about 2 weeks ago. This is from Nick. I'm a pensioner currently caring 24/7 from a 100-year-old mother in South Africa. The fees percentages that the banks charge for transferring our modest pensions from the UK would easily fund an annual trip to London so that I could see my 2 daughters and 1 grandson. I accept this robbery through gritted teeth because I have no choice. However, 2 weeks ago, for one transfer, they chose an exchange rate so divorced from reality that I blew a gasket. I rang London, and having apologized to the helpline operator in advance, since it was not his fault, I then let fly. My rant included such comments as, you may think your customers are idiots, but we're not. We know exactly how you rip us off. You bankers are committing fraud. People are getting increasingly angry about it. There was more, but it wasn't very satisfying because my threats were empty ones. And then, tonight, I discovered TransferWise. Yeah, hallelujah. We, the people, can finally stick it to the financial crooks. Thank you, TransferWise, thank you. Please start dealing in the South African rand as soon as you can. I long to be your first, your most devoted, your most gleeful South African customer. You give real meaning to the words democracy and freedom, for which I fought many years ago in the British SAS. Thank you, Nick. We're coming to South Africa. We will let you know. But this feedback really touched many of us on the team. And it's not the first time, not the last time we're hearing things like this. There's another product called Trustbalance that I want to briefly mention. This is an independent third-party site for collecting unbiased customer reviews. We have about 1,200 of them right now. And the exciting thing here is we can see the average customer rating to our service, which is standing at 9.7 out of 10. If you go looking for a conventional financial services provider, you find them with a rating of 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. So quite a long way to come up for them. While talking about customers, so we started out in the first world, so not dealing with underbanked, unbanked, which you might find in money transfer businesses, but starting with what we felt was a sweet spot for peer-to-peer. Surely down the road we're going to be moving to other markets where peer-to-peer might not work so well. And here's one of my favorite customers, meet Michael. So he was working as a project manager in an accounting firm. As exciting as that may be, he felt that he wants to do more. So he went to school, he went to get an MBA from Manchester Business School, and during those times he came up with an idea. He felt he can connect his passion and the British public's knowledge about rare and quality drinks. So he started Genuine Spirits. And what they do is they import handcrafted liquors from overseas to the UK. And there comes the age-old problem. He's getting his spirits from the US. So he used the bank to transfer money there. He used FX brokers, even went to the post office until he found TransferWise. Good thing about him is what he values most about TransferWise is the transparency and ease of use. We keep him and his customers and partners updated about the state of the transaction all the time. It makes him look more trustful and more reputable to his partners and customers. And there's lots of other people like him. There are people who are selling lingerie internationally, people paying their rents in Spain, and so on. Enough about TransferWise. So if we think about what we did, where could we extrapolate this in the rest of the financial services industry? But let's zoom out for a moment and let's go back in time about 20 years and think about how aviation was back then. In the 90s, it was flying was complicated. Tickets were expensive. There wasn't such a high number of flights. So came along EasyJet, Ryanair, Southwest, and they've changed aviation for us consumers. There's a much larger selection of flights. Yeah, the seats might be smaller, a bigger selection of airports, and you can easily compare. So a big win. In the 2000s, making long-distance phone calls was incredibly expensive and complicated. A little piece of software called Skype launched, and Skype will turn 10 this year, and now they own about 30% of worldwide long-distance calling minutes. And we're all used to using Skype or other products for making high-fidelity video calls for free. And I think if we look at what happened in these two industries and many others, we can elaborate on what's going to come in the financial services. We're all going to be having access to faster, cheaper, and much more transparent financial services. So talking about financial services sector now, we can see there is a number of different verticals where a lot of people are active. So there's a funding sector with Seedrs, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, many others. There's lending with Funding Circle, Wonga, Zopa, and other ones, trading, money transfer, and so on. What's common about all of this? So they're all active in verticals where banks used to be the main player. For some reason, the banks have been sleeping over the past 10 years and have given an opportunity for many of these companies to come along and offer those services. And as we see, customers are going for this. And finally, this is happening within 200 meters of the financial city in London or right here in Canary Wharf. I think what's going to be even more exciting is if we look forward to next years to come, and all of these services having some APIs and having some data will start being interconnected. What's to stop today us from linking up a bunch of these services to offer a complete banking experience? We can do a current account from Simple. We can do loans from Funding Circle. We can do money transfer from TransferWise. And you have pretty much all you need for a conventional banking experience. I think that's going to be exciting to see how this develops and how the current incumbents will also adapt to the environment. In the end of the day, money wants to flow freely like water. Anything in the way will get washed away. Thanks.
So Taavet, what's the catch?
I hate to tell you, there's none.
So why aren't more people doing this? People with established networks, people with access to millions, tens of millions of people.
I think these people tend to be the incumbents who got a little bit too much to lose. It's a classic disruption story which has played over so many times in the past 10, 20 years. It's the same that we saw in Skype. When we launched Skype, it was, oh, what are the telcos going to do? Where are we now, 10 years later? What have telcos done? Not much. They happily or unhappily coexist with Skype. Skype has won 30% of the market share. I think it comes down to the problem of these guys have too much to lose right now. Same with telco, same in financial services. So they will adjust over time, but until they do adjust, there's ample opportunity for newcomers to enter the market and win significant market share. And then sure, the real fight will play out in 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
But there's a great incentive. I think you're charging typically about 0.5% as a transaction fee. So people are going to see dollar signs and they're going to try and put their tanks on your lawns, surely.
Not yet.
And what's been the biggest challenge in getting to this moment?
It's very challenging to build up trust in the financial services space. When we launched, we had the first guy make a transfer of £2,000 15 minutes after we launched. That was kind of surprising to us. How did he decide to trust us? We're a completely new company, only online. So I think that's what takes a long time to build up. That's what the incumbents have, even though our trust has gone down. But I think that's a hard one to build up. Every day we need to believe there are more people who will trust us tomorrow, will convert them, and then they will convert their friends down the road. We built up our trust completely without doing any marketing so far. So it's purely gone from person to person.
Well, I think you've just got a few more customers. Thank you very much, Taavet.